Hey guys, get your popcorn. It's going to be a longer one today. Here's the dimensional color that we're going to be going over. This service, I'm going to be lightening with Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume and Olaplex. Here's my client's before. It's been well over a year since the last time she's been in to see me, and today she just wants to redo the same thing and freshen up a bit. My client always wants to stay more on the natural side, and we're not doing any heavy lightening, so we're just going to be doing a partial foilayage. And to start, we're going to do our foils around the face. She does want to be a little bit more brighter around the face than what we did last time. She wants to be a little bit more bold. That is kind of on trend right now, where it is a little bit more brighter around the face. So that's what our goal is today. So to start, I'm going to do a little bit heavier of a baby light foil all around her hairline. And we're going to do about 4 foils back to brighten her up. If you're new here to my channel, this is how I always do my foils around the hairline. I feel like this is what looks best and also what my clients prefer, to have something a little bit more natural and something that's not going to grow out with like a heavy line of demarcation. I feel like this is perfect because it kind of highlights your hair as the sun naturally would. So when you pull your hair back, you just have some really soft, glowy highlights instead of some really big stripy foils as if you were just to foil up the side of the hairline. I prefer this a lot more because it just kind of blends a little bit better and looks a lot more natural. So we're just going to continue this up the side and then flip to the other side of the hairline. By the way, I feel like there's also lots of other ways that you can do these hairline foils depending on what your client wants and how bright they want to be. If you have somebody that wants to be like extra bold and really super bright, you could do some slices. I would still start off with like a fine little section of their natural directly on the hairline. And I never foil right on the hairline. I always do a little subsection, pull that aside so their natural is like the first thing that's right on their hairline. And then I do a fine little weave directly behind that. But if you had a client that wanted to be like extra bright and bold around around their hair, I don't want to say hairline again. I don't want to say hairline again, but I'm going to, because that's what we're working on. So just start keeping count, okay? Sorry. Anyways, so you could start the foils with like a little sliver of their natural on the hairline, and then do like a weave and then another little subsection, and then you could do a slice. Or like when you do that weave, you could do a slice directly following after that if they want to be extra, extra bright. But I feel like having that weave and then that little subsection directly on the hairline before you do any of the slices is going to help it blend and look at least a little bit subtle and create a little bit more of a blend as it grows out. So that way it's not just like a big old line of demarcation in like 3 months. At least that will create a little bit more of a blend. So that way it grows out a little bit softer from the hairline. Also doing like a back combed weave or back comb slice, that will help it have a little bit more of a cushion and a little bit more of a rootiness. I don't think I'd really be for doing a root shadow just because the hairline foils are so fragile. The hair on the hairline. Am I a crackhead? The hair on the hairline is so fragile and fine that I really don't like overlapping. And so if you end up doing a root shadow, then when you go to do a retouch a few months down the road, you're going to have to bleach through that, and that could potentially cause breakage. So the best alternative to that would be like back combing it, so that way you don't have to tap it with anything and you can prevent it from like damage in the future. Now that we're at the top of the hairline doing the money piece, I like to make sure that I'm getting even connection all the way around the face, all the way around the hairline. So instead of just doing straight down the mohawk section, I'm going to do from the center of where she parts her hair out to the sides. That way, make sure that when she pulls her hair back, she's not going to have like dark holes, dark circles like on her hairline. A lot of people complain about that, especially if they're really bright blonde. They sometimes feel like they don't have even connection all the way around their hairline. They feel like they have dark holes. So instead of doing your foils just straight down the center of the forehead, I would ask them where they part their hair and then go from like right where they part their hair out to the side. That way you'll make sure that you have like brightness all the way around. When they pull their hair back, they'll have even highlights everywhere. So for these foils, we're just going to do the same thing. And also I feel like this is a really good way for people that when they flip their hair, now that we're kind of getting into more like a voluminous style versus just like the beach waves. So if somebody like flips their hair like way further over on the side, foiling diagonally back off of their hairline will give them a little bit more brightness and dimension in that flip, versus if you just do it down the center, then they might not have any highlights kind of further off to the side of their hairline. So this will give them a little bit more brightness for if they flip their hair on either side. Now that we're over on this side, you can see where I'm going from the center of her forehead where she parts her hair, and I'm going over to the side to get even connection to the other side of the foils. And we're just doing really fine baby lights again, just a really fine weave. This is also, again, something that you can change up depending on what your client wants. If they want something like really bright and bold, then you could do like just slices all the way back. That would give them a lot of brightness. You don't have to do any weaves if you don't want to. I would still do a little bit of a subsection. I personally do like doing weaves because I feel like I don't really think it looks very good if it's just like a big old chunk of blonde. So I think doing some weaves and giving them like a really subtle brightness looks really pretty. Again, if a client wants, if that's what they like, to have it extra bold and more of just like a whole bleached out bang part, then you could do a few slices back to back. But this is a good option for somebody that maybe wants it a little bit more subtle. Because she wants to be brighter in her money piece area, I'm going to back comb and tip out her ends of her money piece just to make sure she feels a little bit more bold through the length of her hair. One of my favorite tricks to do is to take the foils that are through the ends of the hair and tuck them up through the rest of the foils. That way it helps insulate it and give them a little bit more heat to help them process a little bit better, just because those foils at the scalp are going to get nice and bright and then the ends might be stuck at like a level 8. So to ensure that they process a little bit brighter, just fold those foils up and tuck them in there and they'll get nice and bright along with the rest of the foils. For the last money piece foil, I like to do a connecting piece from the center, and this is going to give it like a softer blend into the rest of the hair. I don't really like it if it's a bold money piece or like brightness right on the money piece, and then it just kind of like stops and it's too contrasting with the rest of the hair. I think having a little bit more of a natural flow by doing a little triangular section, weaving it back, combing it, and then feathering up into the roots gives it a little bit more softer of a blend. That way it kind of eases into the back section of the hair versus just having like a bright money piece and then dark. I think that little connecting piece is really good at helping give the transition from the front of the hairline to the rest of the hair. Now that we're going to move on to the back of the section of the hair, I'm going to do a zigzag parting. This is going to help give you the best blend. I've oh my gosh. I am sorry. That came out of nowhere. If you haven't noticed, like, I'm so done. I'm so far beyond trying to sound like a perfect YouTuber. I can't deal with it because do you guys know how many times I have to like record and then somebody like comes downstairs or my kitty's like being loud or obnoxious or I stumble on my words and then I have to re-record something like 5 times? And then I forget what I said. And then I'm thinking like, wait, did I say that last time I recorded or did I say it this time I recorded? And then I feel like my words are jumbled up and my brain feels like it's going crazy. So I'm at a point in my life now where if I sound like a crackhead and I stumble on my words, guess what? We're going to go with it. If I sneeze in the middle of recording, guess what? We're going to go with it. I'm sorry for yelling. I'm sorry for yelling. I'm sorry for yelling. All right, back to what I was saying before I really interrupted myself. So I have a lot of people who comment that they have a hard time getting like a really good blend. I feel like the best way that I can get a blend to like look perfect without having any splotchiness and like just blend really nicely is do a zigzag parting, however deep or wide of a zigzag you want it to be, and then pick up that weave and then back comb it and feather up into it. Don't try not to do like a straight line unless you're going as far up into the roots as you possibly can, but feather up into the root area. This for me has worked really well with getting a really good blend. And you'll see at the end of this that even though sometimes it looks like there's no way that this isn't going to be a heavy line of a foil, you'll see when I'm done that all of these combined really make sure that by the time all of her hair is combed out, she has a really nice blend. None of this looks too heavy or pieciness or like she's going to have a harsh line of grow out or anything like that. It looks really blunt and heavy of a foil, whatever, but all of these, like the parting, the back comb, the weave, everything together is really going to help everything look as blended as possible. So because she wants to maintain her natural color, which is like this, which like level 5, 6 or whatever, I'm taking pretty big subsections in between these back sections. I don't want to overfoil because I don't want her to look as if she has like all this super brightness on top. And then because we're not doing a full and she's going to have like her dark underneath showing through, I don't want her to feel like the top layer section of her hair is much, much lighter than the underneath. So I'm going to be doing like some pretty big subsections in between because we just want to give a little bit of brightness, a little soft dimension showing through her hair just to brighten her up a little bit, but not enough to feel like she's got a whole bunch of like lighter pieces on top. So giving a lot of that dimension in between is going to ensure that she still feels like she's her natural color with just a little bit of soft brightness throughout. By the way, how do you guys like this video editing style? I know years ago when I first started, this is what I was editing on, which was iMovie. And then like the last year and a half, because I know I haven't uploaded much in the last like year. I'm trying to get back to it though. I've been using InShot, which has a lot more options. Like iMovie only allows you to fast forward up to like twice as fast, where in shot you can like fast forward like 7 times as fast. So how do you guys feel about this? Like, are you guys feeling like this is too slow, it's dragging on? I know a lot of you guys, a lot of you followers that have been around for a while, thank you. Like, you guys don't know how much I appreciate you, and you guys that watch like the whole videos. I know a lot of you guys miss these longer videos, but I feel like when I use my other app, I'm able to speed it up like 5 times as fast. And then the video can be like 20 minutes long versus like 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes or whatever. But also with that, you also don't get to see as much of the work or the detail or the stuff in between because it's sped up so fast that it's kind of hard to like see. So what do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer like this one? Do you prefer like it just being sped up so much faster? I'm just curious to know, do you guys like a little bit of both? Let me know, because like after watching this back, I'm like, geez, this is like taking forever. But this is how I used to do it. But since I've used the other one where it's sped up so fast, I feel like this is just so much slower now. So let me know what you guys think. If it doesn't bother you guys, like I'll keep using this one because whatever you guys like, honestly. But just let me know in the comments. Another thing you guys might be wondering, like, why am I foiling on one side, flipping to the other side, then the back, then the other side, then the back, and kind of working it in a circle? And that's because I want to make sure that this lightens evenly. I know that I'm probably going to have to refill another bowl of bleach, and I just want to make sure that this has enough time to process evenly before I get to the top. And I feel like because all the hair is going to be laying on top of these foils, it's kind of going to insulate itself and produce a little bit more heat to help it process faster. Because this bleach now has been sitting for quite a while, because we did a haircut and then we did her hairline foils. So it's probably been like an hour and a half at this point now. So I want these foils underneath to be able to process the same and have the heat from all that hair and the foils laying on top of it. And then when I get to the top, I'll get a fresh bowl of bleach, which won't have the heat to insulate it from the foils laying on top of it. So that way, being a fresh bowl of bleach, it will be able to process faster and catch up with the foils that are underneath. All right, as we're getting closer to where she parts her hair, I'm going to do the foils a little bit closer together, but I'm going to do the foils a little bit finer of weaves and a little bit thinner of some sections. That way, wherever she parts her hair, she'll have some of the highlights falling through on either side. If I take larger subsections, then I'm afraid that the highlights might fall on one side of her part and not the other side. So usually when I get to the area where they part their hair, I'll take like an inch section width on their part and just pack in a little bit more foils that are a little bit finer and not as wide of weaves and a little bit more of a baby light, but I'll do more in just that section to make sure wherever she parts her hair, she has even brightness on either side. I know I've talked about it before, but have you ever styled your client's hair and you're trying to part their hair just perfectly because you foiled their hair, but holy cow, like you put a little bit more foils on one side of the part than the other side because the subsection falls where they part their hair. So now they have all the blonde on one side of the part instead of the other side. So doing a little bit more of some foils closer together will ensure that they have even brightness on either side of their part. And to finish off this application, I'm going to go through and just tip out some of her ends just to give her a little bit more brightness through the ends, and not a whole bunch, just maybe like 5 pieces around, but not like the very, very underneath, just a little bit here and there. You'll notice as I pull these foils aside, I'm taking that subsection and pinning that back before I grab the section underneath to tip out those pieces. And that's because, again, I don't want her to lose her natural color, and I don't want her to feel like she's too solid blonde or solid lighter. Not that we're going for blonde, but you know what I mean. Solid lighter pieces through the ends. So pulling aside that subsection will help her maintain a little bit more of her natural through the ends too, and not feel like she's too light overall around the face. And we're just going to throw a few in the back area and call it good, and then do one on either side of this back center one, and then we'll be done. Again, try to remember to fold these ends up underneath the other foils so that way they're insulated and have a little bit more heat from the scalp to help those process a little bit more than the rest of the hair, because those are going to be stuck at like a level 8 and the rest is going to be nice and bright. So remember to tuck those end foils. All right, let's take it back to beauty school. We're going to pull these foils and I'm going to wipe the bleach off. What do they teach us in beauty school? That's not really the correct way to do it. So let's go back to the basics, but we're going to correct ourselves, okay? In beauty school, what do they teach us? They teach us to spray the bleach out and then wipe it off. And what happens when bleach is wet? It keeps processing. So you want to make sure just to pull the bleach off and dry it out. And that's what's going to stop the bleach from processing. If you pull foils and then you set it aside on the natural hair, this is where you're going to get lots of splotchiness and those like cheetah prints, tiger stripes, where you see lots of splotchiness on the natural hair because the bleach touched it. And it's because you didn't dry the bleach out first. Also, I always tell my clients at this point when I'm pulling foils around their face, close your eyes just to be safe, because I'm pulling foils, and to be safe, I want to make sure you don't get anything in the eyes. So we pulled the hairline foils out because those were ready and finished because those had been sitting for so long. But then we let her finish processing for probably like 30 more minutes. So now we're going to get to toning. You can see in this next clip as I'm combing out the back comb that everything looks like it blends really nicely and there's no harsh lines. All right, for her toner, she wants to stay on the warmer side. So we're going to do half and half of a natural level 8. And then that 954 is like a beige toner. So warm, but like on the cooler side of warm. To do her toner, I'm going to section aside her hairline foils because I want to make sure that this stays a little brighter. And to start, I'm going to just hit her roots because I want this to start depositing a little bit darker right on her roots to help it blend a little bit more. So we're going to do just on her roots, kind of drag it like down a little bit more, but we're not going to go through like her mids and ends yet. This is a really great way to be able to get a dimensional color with just using one toner. Instead of slapping it all over everywhere together and letting it process everywhere at the same time, I like to do my application a little bit more strategically. That way we can get a little bit more brightness and depth depending on where we do our placement. So her roots have been sitting for probably about 10 minutes. I'm going to go through now and just tap right on her hairline. Not directly like right on the very front of her hairline, but like her money piece towards the back side of it. I just want to blend this out a little bit more. So I'm going to hit those roots, not directly like on her face yet though, just enough to soften these like 1.5 inch back ones that sit back a little bit further. It's going to help blend out those foils, but it's going to leave her brighter just right around her face. All right, now that I have that application done on her roots in order in which I want them to start processing the longest, you can see that where we started her application back in the crown area is starting to deposit a little bit darker. So that's going to look a little bit darker. The front is not going to process as long, so it's going to be a little bit lighter. And now we can start dragging this through the midsection. We're still not going to run all the way through the ends yet because we do want her ends to stay a little bit lighter. So we're going to comb everything through her mids, and then after that gets pretty much applied, then we're going to start dragging it through her ends right away because it doesn't need to sit for too much longer, just to like give it a little bit more of a tone down. And now that we got that combed all the way through the ends of her hair, we're going to start dragging everything through the front pieces and toning down this front section. But again, she does want to stay a little bit brighter. And then we are going to go through at the very end and hit all the way around her hairline, because even though she wants to be brighter, she doesn't necessarily want to be a blonde. But it's still going to leave these just right on her hairline. The very, very front pieces are going to be brighter than the rest of it because we're toning this the very last. So this is the same bowl of toner that I'm using for this whole application, but just going through and placing it in sections first and then saving some areas for the very last. You'll notice that in the very end, she's going to have lots of variation of tones, even though we're using the same bowl, just because it processed for different times. So probably the crown area sat for probably like 25 minutes. The mids and ends sat for probably like 15 minutes at the mids, and then just like maybe 10 minutes through the ends. And then directly on her hairline probably really only sat for like 5 minutes. All right, I'm loving this. You can already see as we're drying her hair that she has lots of different tones and variations of darkness and lightness, just even toning with that one bowl of color. And for those of you who are interested in the styling, I'm going to use my T3 curling iron, and I believe that this is like 1 3/4 inch of a curling iron, and this is a huge barrel. I love it. It's perfect now for that voluminous like blowout style. I'm going to go through and curl her hair all the way up to her roots, and I'm holding it horizontally instead of vertically. Where before, when we would do like the beach waves, we would do our curling iron more vertically. So this is going to give you more of that blowout look that everybody's wanting to style their hair that way now. And I'm also going to spray her hair before I curl it. And I know I don't show that part, but I'm using like a stronger hold. I'm using a Kenra number 25. And then we're going to go through and let this sit for a few seconds. And then as soon as we pull the barrel out, we're going to reshape that curl and then let it cool down in that formation. And then that's going to help set the curl. Look at this color. I think this looks so pretty. You can see by the root and everything blends really nicely. And then doing that root shadow, even though like it wasn't technically a root shadow, it's just a toner. But because we put it on the roots first and let it sit first a little bit longer, it kind of gave it a little bit more of a natural shadow. And then you can see through the rest of her hair, it gets a little bit brighter through the ends. And I think it just toned so pretty. Still has lots of dimension, but she still is reading as her natural color with just a little bit of dimension throughout. And then just brighter around the face. I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. So let's talk more about this blowout style though, you guys, okay? I see a lot of people going through and just going through all this effort, round brushing and doing all this styling, and then you feel like it's gonna have like so much body and all this stuff, whatever, and then you see at the end of the video, it just has this slight little like bend to it, like it hardly looks like anything. And I feel like, you guys, you don't have to go through all this trouble to like round brush your hair to get a blowout. Just get like a larger barrel curling iron and just curl everything under. Just curl everything under. It's that easy. Just get a big barrel and curl your hair under. And then for this top part, which I feel like this is the biggest part that everybody wants for that like big swoosh, you know, in the front of their hairline. And just curl everything. Just curl it back. Just curl it back and then let it sit there for like 5 minutes to let it cool down so it gets lots of volume. And then that's going to give you that like big bang, that like super popular like 90s swoosh that you have in the bang area. And then let everything cool down, because if you comb it out when it's hot, you're going to lose that curl. But you can see here already that like this is holding the style really nicely. We don't need to do this huge fancy like blowout. My wrist can't handle it, okay? So we're going to do it with a curling iron. And it looks just as good. It looks just as pretty. All right, I just want to point this out. You can see around the front of her face that she's about 2 shades lighter. She's not like super bright blonde or anything, but you can see that she definitely has more of a money piece that stands out around her hairline. And she's definitely a lot brighter around her face, but everything blends still really nicely. And we love a smiley girl. Look how happy she is. Her face was so cute when she saw it. Her jaw like dropped. She was just super cute and happy with her hair. And I love to do her hair. She's so cute. I wish she came in more than once a year. But here we are back to the beginning again. And here we are the after. And look at how pretty and just glowy it is. And it has like lots of dimension. She's still her natural. It's just enhanced a little bit brighter around the front of the face. Just look at those pretty soft highlights. And then she's going to be able to let it go for another year because it blends so well that she's not going to have a harsh line of demarcation. It's perfect. And this is my shot from Instagram, which you can follow me there at Modern Blonde by Christy. And thank you guys so much for watching this longer video. I hope you liked it. I know you guys have been missing them. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.